I just drove my new to me 996 GT3 1,100 miles over the course of 4 days, and the car is back up on the lift once again. So doing that kind of mileage on a car that you just sorted can be a little risky. It reveals the weak points, and the weakest point of this car is that on the drive, I lost oil pressure. So in this video, my friend and mechanic, who maybe you've seen before, Aaron, is going to talk us through some of the things that he and I are going to have to do to get this car right. So if you've been following along, you know that I've really taken a lot of time and put a lot of money into getting this GT3 right. Gorgeous car, killer car, and I have had the chance to put a lot of seat time in it. And, you know, unfortunately, as you push on a car like this, you start to find the weak points. So Aaron, why don't you start to talk to us a little bit about what we've discovered and what we're going to fix / mod.
Sure. So common thing on these 996s, and I believe this sending unit's used on a lot of models, is the oil pressure sending units go bad. And you can see here, this is a relatively new one, and you can see I have the number 4 written on the side of it, because no matter what I would do, what weight oil I put in another car, this one would only read 4 bars. It should go up to 5.
Well, let me jump in and say this, and the reason that we're looking at this particular part has to do with the oil pressure. So I was on this drive, I was up in the mountains of western North Carolina with a lot of guys ripping on our GT cars, and we pulled off to have a little bit of a break and shoot the shit. And when I fired the car back up and started to pull away, I had 0 oil pressure and I got a warning light. And so when that happened, I ended up just saying, okay, well, no smoke, car staying cool. Either I'm in for a $30,000 to $40,000 engine rebuild or I'm not. And so I decided to drive on. And thank God it just turned out to be this little part here, which simply tells, I guess, the dash cluster or the gauge on the dash how much oil pressure there is, right, Aaron?
Yeah, I see them fail all the time. A lot of times they'll peg at 5, sometimes they'll read 0. You'll be driving down the road and it'll be bouncing back and forth from 3 to 4. That's a scary one.
That's what it was doing, and it would peg to 5 and then it would drop again, and it was so at that point I knew that it had to be that.
Right. So we'll go ahead and replace that. It's really easy to get to on this motor. The one that was in there when I test drove the car before worked fine. That's kind of how these things go. Who knows, you know, they seem to be a pretty finicky part. And it's one of the parts I only get from Porsche, even though this new one from Porsche only read 4. We'll put a different one in Will's car. This is not from Will's.
Okay, next weak point or kind of thing that was not ideal was I was getting a lot of juddering out of my brakes, particularly when we got them crazy hot. So the kind of driving that we do in western North Carolina is safe, but it is also spirited.
Quick.
And the brakes were getting super hot, and when they got super hot, they were juddering. So the steering wheel was pulsing and the pedal was pulsing. And so let's talk a little bit about what we have learned and what we're going to do about the cause and the fix for this.
Sure. So we put a pretty aggressive pad on this car, the Ferodo DS2500. Will's wheels here were completely black. That pad is typically, I don't see a melting and a judder situation. So there's a couple of things I guess we need to talk about. Is one, you noticed that the brakes seemed like they stuck maybe a little bit, which, you know, when the car is cold, I'm not noticing anything sticking. But if a pad got stuck and overheated and melted, it transfers that melted layer to the rotor in an uneven fashion. So that's kind of gives you that judder. It often misconceived as a warped rotor. These rotors do not warp. It's really just pad material depositing to the surface. So I'm going to go ahead and pull these pads off, see if I see any pad that's melted. I don't really see any transfer here. It looks pretty clean. But I can take like a brake rotor hone, clean these faces off. I might try to rebed these pads in so we don't have to change pads, but we shouldn't be having those issues unless there was a stuck caliper. I did bleed these, the brake system, so I'm going to investigate that and see what we got going on there, because obviously we can't be having a shaking wheel. We also rebalanced these wheels, and they were all out a little bit with a small shimmy, I would say. I wouldn't say bent. I watched them on the balancer, so who knows if that's playing into it, but there's nothing worse than getting that shake, especially when you're pushing it, you know, in the mountains.
Well, and I actually quit a day early. I just think that when you're talking about, you know, switchbacks and sheer cliffs, it's just like if anything about your brakes is bothering you, probably time to call it quits. I've seen some bad things happen at rallies, and I just didn't want to be that guy.
Right.
So I'll look forward to getting that finished up. So the limited slip on this car, if you guys watched the last video, I think it was, we have learned that the limited slip, the lockup point is, I guess, weak. I don't know, Aaron. Talk to us about what we found. The LSD is shot.
I tested the LSD on the bench, so that's not under load, and there was a load rating when you put it in a vise and turn it of 5 to 15 Newton meters, and it was only locking up at the very low end of that range. So this is a clutch plate style LSD. So Will got this rebuild kit. We're going to try it out, see what it does. I will be curious to see after rebuilding it on the bench how it locks up, and then obviously how it drives. So I'm pretty excited about this. It will require basically draining the fluid, pulling the axle off, getting the diff back out. We'll see. This came out of the UK or somewhere. It came out of Europe, I believe. We wanted to get the guard kit, but the guard kits have been on back order, so we're going to give this a shot and see how it does.
I also bought a GT3, a console delete, center console delete, so that'll be fun. I think it's a nice feature or mod for the inside because it really kind of gives you this throwback vibe. The last thing I'm going to talk about is a freaking total bummer. So I'm going to tell you a quick story. I don't have a lot of footage about it, but Aaron, I'll tell you about it. It's the cow dung story. So we're driving. I'm following 997 guys. We're driving and you know, we're on a road and there's piles of cow shit on the road, and it goes on for miles. And this isn't just, hey, a cow crossed the road, but this was like, man, there's a truck full of dung and it's spilling out. So we're thinking, you know, no big deal. We just drive around it, try not to get it on our cars. Well, we stop after being in this thing for, I don't know, 30 minutes. There's probably 8 of us. We pull off in a grocery store parking lot to stretch our legs, get some coffee, and all we smell is cow shit. So we start smelling each other's cars, and we're like, my God, man, these cars reek. I find a local like jet wash, right? They had the wands, the high PSI wands, and I spray water under the car like forcefully, deep in the wheel wells. I'll save you a lot of the details, Aaron, but I got to my destination and figured out that the back carpet right here was wet. It was soaked. It was soaked. And I'm thinking, man,
this has a thick backing.
It's got a thick backing to it. And this car, I don't know if you would say it definitely had a harness bar back in the day at some point, but there's a bolt hole in the side of the car, and I just thought irrationally maybe I forced water in there. So I went ahead, I pulled the carpet out, I dried it out. I was very happy because I'm technically incompetent. I was really stoked I was able to get the carpet out, and I dried everything out and put it all back in and had to park the car outside in my driveway. And it rained. And I'm like, yeah, so this will be great. So then I go into the back and I touch the carpet and it's soaked again. And I was freaking so pissed because I thought I had knocked it out. I thought it was about that silly, you know, cow dung wash. But now I'm going to throw the ball over to Aaron, and he's going to tell us what was going on with the second.
Oh, yeah. So I assumed maybe there was just some water or something got in the car. Will was pressure washing it around the doors. I see water dripping here and there. But I took the car outside, and I had my neighbor here pour a bunch of water on the back window. And I was watching it. It's coming in. It's either from I believe it's from the glass, but potentially the third brake light panel back there. And it's just dripping in there. And there's this giant piece of sound deadening foam that you see came out in multiple pieces. We'll get another one of these. And it was just soaked. So it would have never dried out. This car would have mildewed like crazy. So if you ever get water in these cars, especially the guys with the cabs and Boxsters, it is really important to get that, find out where the water is coming from, and then to pull the carpet out and dry it. Because underneath your driver's side seat is the alarm module. And if that gets wet, several things happen, but most importantly, you won't be able to start the car because it talks to the engine computer and gives it the okay with an immobilizer in the key. So getting water in these cars is kind of a big deal because this carpet is super thick. It will never dry out even if you leave it in the sun. It really needs to get out, get a fan on it. You can use a wet dry vac because this stuff is just like a big sponge. I've seen it many a times on cabs and Boxsters. Never really a coupe, so I got to give it to Will to get that.
That's
that
my
back
luck, dude. People tell me like only you.
That back window.
So I'll say this. One thing I was actually happy about though is it doesn't look or smell like this leak has been present for a long time, or like the car got a ton of water in it and somebody hit it on me. So I think again it speaks to the condition of the car. I mean, the car is incredibly clean. I think it sat inside maybe in collections or in a warehouse.
The car's from California too, right?
It is.
Never
It
rains
is.
in
So in other
California.
words, the leak has not been there, or at least has not shown up for a while. So I think we're going to get ahead of this thing and fix it. But God, man, I think that the takeaway on that particular segment, this leak segment of this video, is that like you buy one of these Porsches and it's just gonna, like the big problems get sorted out early, but then the little like gremlins start showing up, and it requires patience and money. But I will say this, guys, to put a bow on all this, like this is a fabulous car. The hype around the 996 GT3, I think it is warranted. I was rolling with guys in like 992 GT3s, GT4 RSs, and frankly, those cars are too good for public roads. This one right here made me work for the reward, but you still know it's a GT3 because of that Mezger motor. So I'll be doing more content reviewing the actual driving experience, and we'll just talk more about this car and why I think if you're in the market for one, you need to chase one down. So Aaron, thank you so much for your time, man.
Thank you.